James Maury Henson was born in Greenville, Mississippi. On September 24th, Paul were raised as Christian scientists who don't believe in traditional medicine. The boys seem to enjoy a typical small-town American childhood. But Paul was especially shy, and their mom felt she needed to give him a little extra attention. When Jimmy was left alone, he sought out the company of his maternal grandmother, who was known simply as Dear.
She was always wonderful to be around for young people. She enjoyed young people's thoughts and creativity, and she always was an inspiration for Jim.
Dear was a voracious reader. She was also an artist and quilt maker, and she encouraged Jimmy to use his imagination.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Jimmy discovered the movies, and his imagination was ignited by the first movie he ever saw, The Wizard of Oz. He also discovered radio, which was still in its golden age. He loved the radio comedians, especially ventriloquist Edgar Bergen and his famous dummies, Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd.
Well, Mortimer, greetings and salutations.
He would say that my father was his first inspiration in terms of creating a character, writing for that character, and not writing down to a character.
When Jimmy was in the 5th grade, his father took a job with the Agriculture Department in Washington, D.C., and the family moved to Hyattsville, Maryland. It was there that Jimmy discovered television, and he fell in love with it. The television age was new. In 1946, right after World War II, there were 7,000 television sets in the United States. 1 year later, the television audience had grown to 1 million. Jimmy desperately wanted his family to get a TV, and in 1950, they finally did.
There was a new media, a new and exciting media on the scene. Bert Hillstrom was on television with the Kuklapolitans.
I knew this was going to be this kind of meeting. There's not room for me in this group. That's the whole thing.
Well, let's adjourn and
You're
we'll come
both
back.
against me.
We'll just
That's
adjourn
all,
and come
because
back.
I'm a dragon. Oh, that's
For goodness sake, Ollie.
Jimmy loved Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. Another favorite was the off-the-wall comedy of Ernie Kovacs. With his innovative style, Kovacs was testing the limits of television.
You caught me, didn't you?
Young Jimmy Henson's passion was television, and at the age of 16, he approached all the television studios in Washington to find a job. In the summer of 1954, after his high school graduation, WTOP-TV in Washington, D.C. was looking for someone to perform puppets on a local Saturday morning program. Although he wasn't looking to be a puppeteer, Jimmy took the job, which paid only $10 a day. But as Jim Henson said, it was just a means to an end. It was a way to get into television. That job lasted only weeks, but he quickly got another at WRC-TV, again as a puppeteer. There he teamed up with another puppeteer, Jane Neville, his future wife.
We met in a puppet class at the University of Maryland. Jim was just coming out of high school, and I was in the senior class in art education.
Jim and Jane's first assignment together was a puppet segment for a magazine show aimed at homemakers. Their puppets would lip-sync to comedy records. The station liked the act, and soon they were given their own 5-minute show. It was seen twice a day. The first at 6:25 in the evening, before the Huntley-Brinkley Report. Then at 11:25, just before The Tonight Show.
We had very sophisticated adult audiences right from the beginning, and I think it was very adventurous of the station to be willing to program our puppets at that time. They weren't really, we were, you know, really pretty amateur, but always good. Jim's work was always good, even if it was a little rough.
Which one of us is going to get off first?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm going to, let me try to get down.
All right.
Wait a minute. Hold up there. Hold.
Jim's new show was called Sam and Friends, and Jim got to do everything from constructing the props and backgrounds to designing the puppets. He wanted these puppets to look different from the traditional puppets that had been used on television before. Jim called his new creations Muppets. Some say it was because they were a cross between a puppet and a marionette. Jim said he just liked the sound of the word.
I think that's one thing that was always unique about him and the Muppets. He created the Muppets to get into television. He didn't create the Muppets and then somebody said, wow, those Muppets are great, we got to put them on television. It was all calculated the other way. He thought, I've got something I can do that would work on television. And it's interesting because if you look at like the early TV sets and the shape and the rounded corners and stuff like that, it's a Muppet shape, you know? The Muppets were created to go on a TV screen, and they use just the screen so that the television set itself becomes the puppet stage.
All black magic has me in a spell. Oh, black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine.
Sam's friends included Kermit, one of Jim's very first Muppets, although he was not quite a frog yet. He was more lizard-like, without flippers. He was made from Jim's mother's old coat and a ping-pong ball cut in half for the eyes.
I have to remember also this was in the early days of television when it was black and white and it was live. And so even for human performers, very often they would blacken their lips and they would darken their eyes because it was all about the eyes and the mouth. And my father took that concept and applied it to the puppets. It's filling the screen, and what matters is the eye focus and the lip sync. That's it. And the script.
The scripts were good, and Jim's Muppets were a huge hit. But at a time when Jim was celebrating his new success, he also suffered a tragic loss. His brother, Paul, was killed in a car accident.
They were very close. They did things a lot together. And I think he also felt that his parents had lost a lot by losing Paul. So I think he felt that he wanted to accomplish a lot because of that, but also because he always wanted to accomplish a lot. He was someone who really enjoyed the idea of becoming successful and accomplishing a lot. He always felt that he would be successful.
And he was. How many college students arrive at graduation in their own Rolls Royce? Jim had earned his degree in fine arts while working on Sam and Friends, which aired for 6 years. Although he didn't set out to become a puppeteer, it clearly was his calling. Jim Henson and his Muppets found a home in the place he loved best, television.